In 1996, work began on a new museum of modern art in Athens. An ideal site had been secured not far from the Hellenic Parliament, next door to the Byzantine and Christian Museum, and just over the street from the Museum of Cycladic Art. A building had been designed by the internationally renowned architect I.M. Pei. As work commenced to prepare the site, archaeologists came in to assess anything that might be uncovered. In a city like Athens, the odds of finding interesting artifacts were quite high. Even so, no one was expecting to find what they did. On the face of it, what they unearthed was not especially inspiring. The foundations of a rectangular courtyard, surrounded on three sides by covered walkways, with some smaller rooms behind. The size and layout of the buildings were remarkably similar to the remains of gymnasium buildings uncovered at the Academy, one of three gymnasia that existed just outside the walls of the ancient city of Athens. Given the location of this new site, just east of the ancient city, it was quickly identified as the site of the Lyceum, described by a number of ancient writers. Once the identification had been made, all plans for the new museum were halted, and the remains were left visible. The archaeological site is now open to the public. In Athens, as in many historic cities in Europe, almost every building site has layers of important archaeology underneath it. Not all of them can be left exposed. Why was this one deemed to be so important? One of the information boards at the site explains why, commenting that it is difficult to appreciate from the scant archaeological remains on this site that this spot is one of the most significant places in the history of mankind. This is because the Lyceum was not merely a gymnasium, not just a place for physical exercise. It was also the home of the philosophical school of Aristotle, one of the greatest thinkers who ever lived. It was here, towards the end of his life, that Aristotle gathered with like-minded friends and pupils to think and reflect about a dizzying array of topics, from abstract questions in philosophy, the study of the natural world, and the foundations of logic, to rhetoric, drama, politics, and more. Together at the Lyceum, they lived the life of the mind, absorbed in intellectual inquiry. In one of his works, Aristotle describes the immense pleasure that can be gained from this sort of inquiry. He clearly loved what he did. However, he did not do it simply because he happened to enjoy it. He thought that this was the highest activity that any human could do. Indeed, he argued that it is something that we all should do, at least from time to time. In his Exhortation to Philosophy, Protrepticus, an early work now surviving only in fragments, he argued not only that we ought to do philosophy, but also that it is the only route to a fully happy life. A life completely devoid of this kind of intellectual activity is, he believed, barely worth living. This is because it's an expression of our natural human curiosity. And so, if we neglect it, there is a sense in which we fail to live properly human lives. While few of us will ever reach the intellectual heights of Aristotle, most of us pause from time to time to think about big questions, such as what will make us happy, or what matters most in life. Many of us experience wonder at the beauty and complexity of the natural world, if only via documentaries on television. In these small ways, we participate in the same activity that Aristotle and his companions did at the Lyceum almost 2,500 years ago. Ever since then, Aristotle's ideas and concepts have seeped into our natural ways of thinking, to the point of becoming imperceptible.